I always heard that once you became a mother, you suddenly put on some weight, but I had no idea it was all in bulk muscle. I figured as long as we were talking about one Hasbro toy shop exclusive turned ToysRUs.com exclusive, we might as well get the other one out of the way and talk a little bit about Titan's Return Arcee. Now, this is one I'm almost hesitant to review because I've already talked about this toy more than once, so as it's very clear by the vehicle mode, this is yet another retool of Blur, which, granted, exceptionally nice mold. I reviewed the original twice in both Hasbro and Takara versions, but we also saw this toy as Brainstorm already, which means this has been around the block quite a few times before it actually got to pink and white. But there is some changes that are worth noting and a few other additionals that we need to discuss, so let's just go ahead and get it out of the way. So, as you can see, pink plastic all the way around with some white plastic here and there, and then a ton of paint in order to get the look correct. A lot of Arcee's lines and original G1 shapes have been recreated as well as you can across the Blur deco. And it's a little bit rough in some spots, kind of faking the lines here, going across molded details, but you can tell they tried. They tried to get this as close to Arcee as they could, and to be fair, Blur's vehicle mode is actually not a bad approximation of Arcee's. It actually does work on, certain levels and certain details. Of course, a lot of remolding went into it to make that work, and, that's also worth noting. We have a completely new front hood here, which will become a completely new shield in robot mode to get that front end looking the way the original Arcee did. That does lead to this weird scoop that goes like way downhill really fast on this. No real subtlety to moving down. That gets the front end looking G1 accurate, but does leave this big hump because they still had to have the engineering for that little kickstand that the shield has in sled mode. That's a little bit weird. Also a little bit weird is this new gap because of the new remolded shoulders and kind of faking some of G1 Arcee's details a little bit. That we'll see in robot mode, but here it does leave this ugly gap on the side. And then, of course, is the fact Arcee isn't a hover car. But, as I said, profile-wise, it's about as close as we're going to get without having a completely new tooling, so, okay. This is about as close as you're going to get, so we will let it slide. That said, it's still a really nice figure. It still looks really nice in vehicle mode. There's still plenty of details here that work for Arcee as well as they did for Blur. And of course, it just looks nice, so we'll give it a pass. Raising up the canopy allows us to take out the Titan Master from his seat. And we'll take a look at him here in a bit, but we'll go over a few features for a second. For starters, we have 2 pegs for Titan Masters to ride along on the sides, as well as a few spots underneath for weapon storage, which if I rotate the weapons around and let the barrels point forward, we actually get a decent little vehicle weapon mode that makes a little bit more sense. It's more subtle, but it also kind of feels like where mounted guns would be on a vehicle like this, as opposed to, I don't know, jutting out the sides, which is a little bit more traditional as far as Transformers go, but it always looks silly to me. So, I'm more of a fan of putting them underneath the hood. But it's still weapon storage, which is always a nice thing to have for one of these. Okay, so let's talk Titan Masters here for a bit before we continue. So, we have a look at this name is always a little bit tricky because they pull a little trick here. This is Laynad. Laynad. That's Daniel spelled backwards if you weren't keeping up. So, yeah, this is based on Rebirth, where the final episodes of the G1 cartoon where we got all of our headmasters and target masters and whatnot, but Arcee was also a headmaster in that too, in order to save Daniel's life. And now we have this tiny little Titan Master done up to look more like an exosuit, right down to a bullet head in lieu of like a clear canopy. That's kind of hysterical, and it is the extra mile as far as this toy is concerned. So, ball jointed head and neck, that's pretty much normal. We have the normal ball joints in the shoulders that are really only good for up and down motion, and then the double hinged thighs and knees that can bend up and down. I'm going to be so happy to get to more Power of the Prime toys where I don't have to describe how Titan Masters work anymore. Speaking of which, she gets two. And this is strange for a few reasons. Here we have Titan Master Ultra Magnus, done up completely in white with a little bit of blue and red on the face to imitate the look of the original G1 toy Sans armor. The mold itself is from Fangry, so it's a little small approximation of what Prime looks like, with a few fudge details. Same articulation points. The change, though, is in fact the torso as well as the faceplate on the back are now die-cast, so this is far heavier. It also means a lot of the joints, especially in the legs and the neck, are much tighter than they were, and it's a little bit harder to work with him without feeling like I'm going to break something. And then the face itself, not what I expected. That's actually the armored head. Being this big white block, I kind of expected to just be an Optimus Prime face, using the same sculpting they did for his Voyager toy. Credit to them, they put some extra sculpting effort into it. It's just a little bit weird. She just comes with Ultra Magnus's head for no apparent reason. Oh well. Find top spin or twin twist, stick them on there. It'll color match well enough, so it's goofy fun. So we'll go ahead and do that with Daniel. Get him ready for the full transformation. And I've done this transformation, this is the 4th time I've done this on camera now, so yeah, it's getting a little bit redundant, but hey, still good fun. So, hang on. And that always happens every single time. Canopy goes up, seat goes in, then canopy goes down, then we get to click. There we go. All right, so separate this out so I can get the legs opened up. Come on. I've done this transformation so many times, you'd think it would go smoothly on camera when I need it to. It does not. I will at least be thankful that the toy is still pretty firm as far as toys go, despite how many times it's been recast, remolded, reused, recycled, re-whatevered. At least it still works really nicely. All the joints are still nice and firm. Nothing is really loose on this figure. That's always nice. So, that out of the way. We don't need to remove the shield, of course, for transformation, so we'll just go ahead and fold it to the back, and then head on. And it's kind of weird because it's now a wedge bullet shape, so now it feels like it goes in a lot easier. That gives us our finished Arcee in her new robot mode. At least it does if I fold the feet down. That's a good important detail to remember. And I will give her credit. Compared to her previous release in Generations, she definitely has some advantages going for her, despite just being a blur retool. And we'll get to that, and I'll show off a few comparisons here or there, but we'll start where we usually start, with the head sculpt. And Arcee is actually looking really, really nice. I like this more interesting, she's got a more interesting head sculpt design than just, the Princess Leia bun-headed look. She's got a little bit more detail to her helmet, maybe a little bit IEW in there, but still rather calm and still rather stern-looking Arcee. It's very much what I would hope for a more serious take on the character. So, that part looking quite nice. The design itself, of course, is still Blur's body with a few obvious changes, and they made as many little tricks as they could in order to make it look like her G1 self. That is especially true here in the chest, where the deco is supposed to imitate the way her chest looked in the G1 show. Rather than being the canopy, it was the front end of the car. So a little bit of visual trickery going on there. And of course, the major retooling is in the shoulders, both to give them that ball-shouldered look, but also to give her that kibble that hung off of her back. It is a little bit smaller, which is good or bad, depending on, whether you want accuracy or functionality. It does work. It gives her the right silhouette while being a little bit funny looking, but for the most part, still on point. One thing I really like is how much paint is going on here. There's white paint all over her in order to break up the pink and give her a little bit more of her classic look. So she's got a lot of the mix between the white and the pink going on. And thankfully, nothing broken up. I will go ahead and bring in Generations Arcee, and I'll point out, no black. They didn't really go with anything that would kind of cheat the color scheme or kind of like make it more serious. So, the kids will buy it and the boys will buy the toy that is obviously a girl in the pink and the white. Ooh, cooties. But they went with straight up white and pink. I like that. I think they caught a little bit of flack for kind of going a little bit half-hearted on Arcee's original deco. Nice to see that the collectors aimed one actually worked out a little bit better color-wise. They're a little bit more willing to take that chance. So beyond that, we have plenty of play value here. So I'm going to go ahead and take the shield off now. And we will, of course, reveal that, just like all the other versions, it does form this little tiny sled, which can kind of loosely stand there, and you can pilot any kind of Titan Master inside, so they have something to do. And this is also where those gun holes come in handy again, as we can just go ahead, plug it in. And now it's an attack sled. Just in case you have any downhill alpine shooting to do, Arcee has you covered. So that works out pretty well. You at least have that as the option. Of course, this does also work either on these side pegs, which do allow you to have this as just one massive looking weapon with some weird barrels hanging off the front. Or we can actually just do the blur thing, which would be to affix this onto her arm as just some big shield. Now, it doesn't come down as far, so as a shield, it looks a little bit weird, but still, the option is there. It works well enough, I guess. I guess anything big and flat that you can point somewhat forward ends up being a good shield of some kind at some point. And then the double pistols into her hands, which, a little bit of Lara Croft for you. I don't mind that. I like that more than... I will be honest, I like that more than the big sword IDW keeps giving her. This is a little bit more to my Arcee feel. So, the last point we need to get to, articulation, and this is going to feel very familiar. Head, full ball joint, has a little bit of rock to it, plenty of rotation to it. Shoulders, universal motion, that's that weird stunted kind. Hinge here, swivel here. That doesn't quite give me the full range that I'm looking for, but enough to get into most of the poses I'm after. Full bicep rotation, working. Wrist rotation, fully working. Waist, 360 degree, completely unrestricted hip ball joints. Then we have the thigh with a full swivel, and the knee that goes 90 degree beyond. Extra nice. Nothing rocking at the feet or the ankles. They are slanted for more natural stance. Plenty of articulation in this girl. Whoa! Though I will say the headmaster connection is a little bit loose on her. I guess that many uses does eventually take its toll, but I also have a feeling it has to do with that unusual shape they went with to make it look like the G1 exosuit. So that, my friends, is Arcee from Titan's Return. Now remember, this is not the standard $18 release because of the extra paint and the extra remolding that went into it, plus a bonus diecast Titan Master. You're looking at a $25 price point at ToysRUs.com as of this video. And for that, I don't know, she seems rather redundant in one sense, because we do have this more, design accurate Arcee from the Generations line that you can still track down on eBay. At the same time, though, this one's got more white coloring to it. This one's a more robust, more solid figure. And it does have a lot more play value. But again, it's a blur remold, so you might be tired of this style of transformation and just overall design, period. I would say that the Generations version is still your best option if you want something that's screen accurate, but if you're looking for an Arcee that works better as a toy, that you're going to have more fun with, then I have to recommend the Titan's Return figure. It's just more solid, it just does more. And in the end of the day, I find fun to be the far most important element to any toy. Just letting you guys know, my eBay page has been updated. We got BotCon Transformers, Lego minifigs, some pop vinyls, and most importantly, my Gaia memories are now sold individually. Sales are open to the US only. Sorry, internationals, it's very difficult for me to ship to you guys. Link is in the description below. Thanks for looking.